Andrew Wallace, Federal Member for Fisher.
So Andrew, tell us what's transpired over the last couple of days since last we spoke to you about this.
Well, as most of us would understand, the building and construction sector is one of the most important industries to the Queensland economy. It's worth about $45 billion and employs tens of thousands of people, many of whom are small business people and subcontractors. Now, on Monday, I alerted local media to an issue involving the fact that private certifiers require professional indemnity insurance to be licensed under the Queensland Building and Construction Commission terms of their licences. Now, we know that as of the 2nd of July, the last remaining professional indemnity insurer is withdrawing from the market as a result of the combustible cladding issues which have arisen in the UK and also in Australia. And that has resulted in, unfortunately, 72 people losing their lives in the Grenfell fire. Now, of course, we don't want to see that operating or happening in Australia. But what we're seeing now is the very real prospect of a total shutdown of the building industry in Queensland. Now, the responsible minister for this is Mick Brenni. He is the State Labor Minister for Housing and Public Works. Now, Mr Brenni convened a meeting yesterday with industry stakeholders to try and work out a resolution for this impasse of what to do with the professional indemnity insurers and the fact that they're leaving the market. Now, nothing has transpired from that meeting, and I'm advised that Mr Brenni has made a decision that he will not be intervening, he will not be making any changes to Queensland legislation which would see a carve-out of this combustible cladding issue from professional indemnity insurance. So what that means, unfortunately, is that come the 2nd of July and over the next 12 months, as the private certifiers, as their professional indemnity insurance begins to run out, and I'm advised that 80 private certifiers, their professional indemnity insurance is due to expire in July alone. Now, there are only around about 300 private certifiers that are operating in the private sector in Queensland. Over the next 12 months, these private certifiers will be precluded. They will have to hand their licences back to the Queensland Building and Construction Commission. What that means, of course, is that works will not be able to get out of the ground because these private certifiers approve building works. What that means is that concrete pumps like the one just over the water here at Boccarina Beach, small mum and dad businesses that are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for mortgage payments on their trucks, that they will be laying idle whilst private certifiers can't certify for a slab stage, for example, that they're ready to pour concrete. So concrete pump operators will be precluded from operating. Concreters will be precluded from operating. Carpenters, bricklayers, tilers, roofing contractors, and all the suppliers that go into making our building industry will be precluded from working. Now, not only that, we know that these, in many building contracts, the ability for a builder to be able to receive payment is tied to a certifier signing off that a building has reached a certain stage. So we will see that private certifiers are unable to certify that works have reached that stage. And as a result, we'll see that building contractors, subcontractors and suppliers will not be able to be paid for the work that they've done. Now, Mick Brenni has been very, very vocal on the issue of the protection of subcontractors' right to payment. He has been saying from when he was appointed as the responsible minister in December 2015 that he wants to see every subcontractor paid on time, in full, every time. Now, as a result of his inaction, there will be subcontractors going to the wall, and that is not good enough. It is not good enough for Mr Brenni to be relying on a report from PricewaterhouseCoopers upon which he says he has made his decision not to intervene. It is not good enough for Mr Brenni to not have released that report publicly. The building and construction sector in Queensland deserve to know what's in that report, and I'm calling upon Mr Brenni to release that report publicly this morning. Now, Mr Brenni has also sat as the responsible minister on a report that I was engaged to prepare for the Queensland Government back in October of 2014. A report where I made 122 recommendations about the certification industry and the Building Act. I contend that if those 122 recommendations were enacted by this Labor state government, that we would not be in the mess that we are now today. Those 122 recommendations called upon the government to clean up not just the private certifying industry, but the whole of the building industry. To this date, there is no requirement on building contractors or subcontractors to undertake compulsory professional development. Now, most other professions and businesses are required by government legislation to undertake continuous or compulsory professional development, but not in the building industry. So we have a situation now where we've seen buildings fail, and they are failing because corners are being cut, and it's very easy to just simply single out certifiers as the problem. But what we need to realise is that certifiers don't actually perform the defective building work. They are not on building sites 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, watching over the shoulder of building contractors. This is an issue that goes to the heart of the very problem of the building industry, in that there are shonky operators out there, but for 1 second I don't profess or suggest that all builders are shonky. I'm one myself. I'm a builder myself. But there are problems with the building industry, and that stems right from the works that are actually done right through to certification. And it's something that this state government has sat on its hands now for nearly 5 years without making any meaningful changes to legislation. That is not good enough. Because of this inaction, I'm calling upon Mick Brenni today to resign. Mick Brenni should not keep his job when tens of thousands of Queenslanders, mums and dads, small businesses, look to be losing their jobs, look to be losing their businesses that they have worked for years and years on. They have sweat, blood and tears. Now, Mick Brenni, coming from the union movement, wouldn't understand what it's like not to be able to, meet your mortgage payments on a concrete truck. He wouldn't understand what it's like to not be able to pay your apprentices tomorrow. But that is the prospect that they are going to be facing from the 2nd of July. Now, if Mick Brenni refuses to resign, Anastasia Palaszczuk should, at this point, demonstrate some form of leadership and sack him, and appoint someone that will do the job and will make these necessary changes before the 2nd of July.
Andrew, you've called for changes to introduce exclusions around particular things. Does the state government, are they looking for other things, other options? Is it just that they don't like your answer, or do they have any answers of themselves how to address this particular issue?
Well, look, Mr Brenni has remained mute since I called upon him on Monday to resolve this issue. He's not made any public statements, he's not released any press releases, other than to blame the federal government. Now, this is symptomatic of this state Labor government that constantly tries to shift blame onto anybody else but themselves. Now, the state government is very, very quick to point the blame at anybody but themselves. But in this case, the blame lies fairly and squarely with this state government, which has sat on my report and done nothing for nearly 5 years.
So, and I asked this question on Monday, but I'll ask it again today. So, is this engineering a crisis to enable the state government to do something expected? Is that, I mean, why would you not do anything when this impending tsunami of issues is going to start rolling over you?
The only conclusion that I can now draw is that Mick Brenni is prepared to sacrifice the businesses of private certifiers in Queensland. These are men and women who have built up businesses, many of whom over the last 21 years since private certification came in. The only conclusion that I can draw is Mick Brenni is prepared to throw those business people in the rubbish bin and consign all certification back to local government. Now, when I did my report in 2014, local governments, the vast majority of local government made it very clear to me that they did not want to see a return to a sole local government certification type system. They wanted to see a continuation of the dual system where the public local government system works in conjunction with the private sector. Local government have indicated to me previously that they are simply no longer equipped to undertake the sort of work that would require the amount of certification work that would come their way if private certification fell away. Nor do they want the risk. Now, certification is a risky business. Many of these men and women put their homes on the line every day, as many builders and anybody working in the building industry does. They put their financial future on the line by operating in the building industry. It is a risky business. But local government authorities have told me back in 2014 that many of them do not want to see a return to a sole local government administered practice because they see the risk as being too high for ratepayers.
Given the amount of construction, the amount of jobs that are tied to construction here on the Sunshine Coast, how does that forebode for jobs for all those people in those related fields? Given, say, government came out in their budget saying their budget was all about jobs, how many jobs are at risk here on the Sunshine Coast, would you estimate, based upon the construction slowing down or shutting down?
Well, the building industry is one of the largest providers of jobs on the Sunshine Coast. There is absolutely no doubt about that. We would conceivably see the loss of many thousands of jobs here. If you just think about anything that goes into building and construction, whether it's the steel fixer that prepares the slab or the excavator operator that digs the footings, right through to the painter or the curtain provider that provides the curtains at the finish of the job, and everywhere in between. This is going to impact on, essentially and most importantly, small business. Small business is the lifeblood of the Sunshine Coast. It's the lifeblood of this electorate. And we face a very real prospect that these people's businesses will significantly be impacted and many will shut down because at the end of the day, if private certifiers don't have professional indemnity insurance, under the current laws of Queensland, they will not be able to do their work. If they can't do their work, then thousands of building contractors will not be able to do their work, and nor will they be paid for the work that they have done in the past.